It's been said that if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. As when a pastor leaves, such as Matt did in the winter of 2012, we are advised and it is encouraged by Presbytery that we engage in a mission study or a long-range strategic plan prior to calling a new pastor. And it's a good idea anyway to engage in that kind of 3 to 5 or 5 to 7 years or so. Session appointed this team, this strategic planning team, in the fall of 2012, so it has been a long process. Before their report begins, I want to introduce all of these hardworking folks to you and have them stand up. I believe they're scattered across the room. Bob Bristol in the back. I don't have them in the same order as is on the screen. Dale Weingarten. Dale. He's here somewhere. Don Cowie. Dave Zesson. There's Dale Weingarten popping out of the kitchen. Janet McGinnis, who is enjoying the warmth of Florida. But her daughter's here, and her son is here. John Kreppel, Krista Anderson, Liz Hopswell, Mary Dienick, Paula Perkins, Ted Euler, and last but certainly not least, Eric Heller. A special word about Eric. Eric's vocation is in nonprofit strategic planning work. And while serving on session, he also offered to chair and work with this committee. He has put in countless hours, and we have benefited greatly from his skill and his wisdom and his diligence, and we thank you. Dave Zesson will be presenting a summary of the report. The summary documents will also be provided for you at the conclusion of the report in a pamphlet form. A much longer version will be available online and in hard copy by request. It's about 40 pages, so if you really will read it, we would like you to have a copy. Otherwise, take a look at it online. The entire planning group is willing to answer your questions of clarity after the presentation, and I will turn this over now to Dave.
Thank you, Linda. Good afternoon. Like many of you, serving on a long-range strategic planning committee was not at the top of my bucket list. The idea of examining every component of congregational life with the knowledge that changes impacting the lives of so many seemed daunting. And of course, no change comes without a price tag. I accepted the challenge and found the experience both interesting and enriching. The assignment soon became defined as how does First Presbyterian Church improve the quality of the church experience for existing members and position itself to attract and retain young adults and young families. While both are necessary for sustainability, the two are not necessarily compatible. What may be good for one may not be good for the other. So we set about to collect data from member surveys and focus groups. We studied the core values of our church. We looked at other churches in the area by attending their services and speaking with their ministers, and analyzed the work of church growth experts who have identified principles of highly effective churches. We found that in many instances, our church measured very well against those standards, and in others, we needed to up our game. In some instances, we were on the right track and needed to push further, and others, our efforts fell short, requiring more measurable changes. Our findings go to session by way of recommendation, but since the church membership has been so helpful in formulating the contents, we thought it important to make this presentation. In the end, we hope that our committee, working with church membership and church leadership, will adopt our recommendations and our church will continue to be a warm and welcoming place of worship. Well before Linda's 5-point sermon, the committee identified 5 critical areas in need of assessments to both improve I was listening. The quality of the church experience and position us for the future. In no particular order, these areas are as follows: worship and music, small group ministries, communication and marketing, facilities, and staffing and personnel. In each area, the committee has developed findings, goals, and action steps. In some instances, you will or may have noticed changes in worship resulting from your comments and our findings. Let me first address worship and music. Without question, the area which evoked the greatest amount of response related to worship and music. Presbyterians want to be challenged in worship with relevant and meaningful messages filled with uplifting, vibrant music. 94% of congregational survey respondents indicated they heard inspiring sermons, and 83% heard beautiful music on Sundays. Yet 44% expressed a preference for more contemporary content in the service, and 35% expressed a preference to move in a new direction. The survey information did not define the term contemporary, nor did the survey provide alternative directions to be explored. However, these responses suggest that some change to the worship service is necessary and expected. Therefore, the committee will recommend to session that Worship Council be expanded to include a creative worship task force and invite to this group members of all ages who have an interest in considering change to the worship service. The group will be provided leadership and resources to experiment with occasional worship alternatives and will make recommendations to session by January 2015. In addition, information will be collected from our young families with children to determine their preferences. The goal is to define both substantive and stylistic definition of contemporary. Finally, Christian education will be charged with assessing the impact of these changes on Sunday worship, the number of services, and educational timing. In the area of small groups, the group learned that small groups provide relational opportunities for church members beyond Sunday worship. These groups can be of a social, religious, or intellectual nature. The church can and should provide organizational structure, leadership, promotion, and facilities to these groups. More importantly, small groups serve as a point of entry for existing and new members to make connection with the church family. 78% of those surveyed responded positively to the statement, "It is easy to get involved at First Presbyterian Church." Church growth research demonstrates the importance of creating small group ministries. One of the measures of a healthy church is the number of small groups the church commences and retains annually. Small group ministry has not been a point of emphasis for First Presbyterian Church staff or leadership. We find there is both a need and strong interest in the development of a small group ministry. Therefore, the committee is recommending, and session has recently endorsed, the appointment of an elder position dedicated to the development of small group ministries. This position will be supported by council and funded in the budgeting process. The council will be responsible to create at least 3 new small groups in each of the next 4 years. Finally, the job description of at least 1 professional staff person will include responsibility for small group ministry. Turning to the area of communications and marketing. With the advancement of technology, First Presbyterian Church must evaluate and improve the manner in which it communicates with its membership and the community. First Presbyterian Church must develop a communication plan, which includes a brand identity, a concise vision statement or elevator talk to articulate our identity. Our current communication piece, profiles, is delivered by mail or email. FPC must embrace technology for use in the worship service and communicate with members in a relevant manner. It is necessary to increase the visibility of First Presbyterian Church as a community of Christ in Holland through vibrant and compelling messages to attract and involve new members of all ages with particular emphasis on youth and young families. Therefore, this committee is recommending that First Presbyterian Church create an internal marketing evangelism team to support the efforts of Katie Houck, our communication specialist, develop First Presbyterian Church branding to be used in all FPC sponsored documents, update the brochure, including a list of activities, services, and contact information to further publicize the FPC outreach efforts. In the area of church facilities, the committee reviewed the essentials of our church facilities and found them acceptable for the most part. You will be glad to know that we are not making any significant recommendations that are not already being considered by Business Affairs. For those of you who weren't aware, Business Affairs is addressing the appliance and storage concerns in the kitchen area to better meet the needs of our church. Business Affairs is in the process of developing a plan to address safety concerns at the church entry off the main parking lot, and we expect information to be coming from session in the very near future. We did receive input that the fellowship areas need to be updated to create cozier, more intimate meeting areas. You probably have noticed the installation of a video screen in the M&M Cafe, which creates different worship options and expands the size of our sanctuary. Look for more improvement in this area. And finally, we are recommending that the youth group meeting areas be modernized to remain in step with similarly sized churches. There is significant competition for the youth's attention in the area of modernized facilities. And finally, staffing and personnel. These improvements cannot be accomplished with the current level of staffing. You have undoubtedly realized that these assignments will not take place without professional staff input, support, and implementation. First Presbyterian Church must take steps to address on a long-term basis the staffing deficit created by the vacant associate pastor's position. The new associate pastor must have skills in the area of children and family ministries. This person should easily identify with young families and their spiritual and social development. Therefore, the committee is recommending an emphasis in an associate pastor to undertake the responsibilities identified in this report, and that this report serve as a roadmap for their work. We understand the Personnel Committee will explore all appropriate options related to the staffing needs identified in this report. An associate pastor nominating committee should be elected no later than March 1st, 2014 to create candidates to fill the job description created by session. Further, the session should redistribute available budget dollars to support the new emphasis on young families and children pending the appointment of a new associate pastor. The program/pastoral staff should be increased to a minimum of 2.5 FTEs, full-time equivalents. This number represents an increase of 0.5 FTEs from the level maintained when the church employed a full-time associate pastor. Whether it is pushing further or moving in a new direction, there will be some strain on the resources of the church. Our recommendations to session will include a temporary shifting of resources with the expectation that with the growth that follows, our resources will be increased and the reallocated funds will be restored. The committee has worked with Session and various church councils to keep them appraised of our work and findings. As a result, some of the findings of our committee have been adopted or are in the process of study at the council level. Some of our work has been affirmed. We are confident the remaining recommendations are well-reasoned and responsive to the data we have received. We hope that as a church body, support will grow and Session will implement these recommendations as they are able. In many ways, this is a blueprint for our future. It is important that church membership support this plan to Session. The demographics of our church suggest that we need to be more intentional as a church to position ourselves to attract and retain young families and young adults. First Presbyterian Church is by no means a church in crisis, but we cannot rest on our laurels. We must continue to take steps to be better. While national statistics describe a decline in denominational church membership and attendance, First Presbyterian Church is bucking the trend. Through hard work and through the hard work of staff and leadership, we are holding our own. Today, we welcome 10 members to our church, and for that, we are grateful. We are hopeful that each of you will be inspired to accept the challenge to participate in this process to improve your church experience. First Presbyterian Church is a wonderful place of worship. Let's spread the word. Speak with an elder, a deacon, a member of staff or session to identify your role in the process. We are all needed. And as Linda would say, you is important. But most of all, prayers for open hearts, listening ears, and clear vision for and from our entire church family are essential as we grow into a vision of a vibrant congregation that, long after our time here, will still gather in this place of worship and live to the glory of God. And all God's people said,
Amen. I want to close our time with a paraphrase of a prayer by Thomas Merton from his book, Thoughts in Solitude. You may know this. It's been known and read in a variety of places. We think we know where we're going. We have some vision. We have some hopes and some dreams. But I think Thomas Merton's words are well placed and well focused when he says this. O Lord our God, we have no idea where we are going. We do not see the road ahead of us. We cannot know for certain where it will end. Nor do we really know ourselves, and the fact that we think that we are following your will does not mean that we actually are. But we believe that the desire to please you does in fact please you. And we hope we have that desire in all that we are doing. We hope that we will never do anything apart from that desire. And we know that if we do this, you will lead us by the right road, though we may know nothing about it. Therefore, we will trust you always, though we may seem to be lost and in the shadow of death. We will not fear, for you are ever with us, and you will never leave us to face the future alone. And so we trust our lives and our church to an exciting God. Amen.
Amen.